Hello. I'm going to have a chat today about Ireland's spiritual landscape and the Irish spiritual consciousness, right? This is a big topic, but I'm just going to get into it anyway, right? As a continuation of the last video on Irish spiritual sovereignty. So I'm just going to give a quick recap on what we spoke already. At the heart of Irish spiritual sovereignty is the belief that the land itself is sacred, alive, and intertwined with the destiny of its people. When Irish chieftains took on leadership, they were symbolically marrying the land, pledging to protect and serve her, right? Sovereignty was a reciprocal bond and relationship with the spirit of the land. The ancient Irish were guardians of this spiritual sovereignty, guiding people to its inner knowing. When you connect with the land, you truly feel it. You awaken sovereignty within yourself. It's about growing sovereignty within yourself, right? When you treat nature with reverence, not just as scenery, but as sacred, intelligent, and alive, you switch from being a passive observer to an active participant in life's spiritual web, right? Sovereignty is a spiritual connection to the land and the backbone of Brehon law and Irish spiritual consciousness, right? So I'm going to get into the spiritual landscape of Ireland and Ireland's spiritual consciousness, right? So think of Ireland for a moment, the land, right, as being alive, right? So you've the head, you've the hands, you've the legs, and you've the body as being alive. And I'm going to go through all the actual meanings of all this, right? So think for a moment of, let's say, Cork. Cork is the primal energy, right? It's all about survival, rebel county, and it's rooted in stance and stuff, And that's why it's all rebel county, all the, let's say, just the primal energy, primal instincts, right? But the empires have always known this. So even under British rule, that's why they had their more biggest numbers of British army in Cork to suppress this, because empires always know about this, right? And even at the World Peace Gathering, with the nations of the world, the tribal leaders and all that, that's why it was happened in Cork, right? And it was in Dripsey Castle, right? And Dripsey Castle is all about the waters of Cork. I can get into that in another time. It's an amazing place. So Dripsey Castle was once the heartbeat of a people rich in history of Irish chieftains, sovereignty, and Brehon law. It was a place where all sacred oaths are always made for a very long time. And in the last video, I spoke about a water ceremony that happened. So it was very important that it happened at Dripsey Castle, right? So Cork is all about the primal energy, right? Belfast. Belfast is a subconscious mind, right? The subconscious mind of Irish spiritual consciousness, right? Which makes a bit of sense when you think of it, right? So this is all about the divided mind, memory, identity, and awareness of tension, all held in the subconscious mind, right? That's why even when you think of it, republicanism started in Belfast. There's a lot, but Belfast, like empires, have always used this and weaponized it against the people to divide people. That was all about dividing the hemispheres of the brain, Northern Ireland. Catholics, Protestants, all of that was dividing people for purposes of external control, right? It gets even deeper than that. Like when you think of, let's say, Armagh, and Armagh is the deeper subconscious mind, right? So the penny's probably dropping in a lot of people hearing this, right? That's why, let's say, South Armagh, there's no surprise why South Armagh became what it was, because spiritually that's where it is in the brain, right? Um, it's the amygdala. The amygdala would be South Armagh, memory, decision making, and emotional response, right? So it makes sense as well why the, let's say, the constitution that we're using at the moment, why that was designed by Eamon de Valera and the Archbishop of Armagh, Archbishop McQuaid, right? So it was created. So the system knows this, right? Very much so. So again, like this, with Belfast being the subconscious mind, we need to go back to living in harmony with the land itself, or it's just going to be weaponized against us, right? I've spoken before how, like, let's say, what I've done with the lock, getting people holding hands and stuff around the lock, we need to get this to happen across Belfast. And I know it sounds hippy dippy, but it's not really. Like getting people to hold hands right from east to west Belfast, and not just the local population, but indigenous tribes of the world, everybody there, getting it done properly. And you completely change the consciousness of not just the land, but the world upon seeing that. Like, forget let's say, the Good Friday Agreement. You want a spiritual agreement between people in the best possible way. And then now you have a scenario where, let's say, the spiritual people of the world are all realizing this about Ireland, right? And I'm only getting started. It's going to get much deeper than that, right? So then, the kids in Belfast, and we've a new generation coming up in Belfast. It's about unity. Unity is important. We've been just turned on each other by by elites for a very long time who have hidden this information from you, right? So West Cork is the feet. That's why it's grounded, all of that. And people feel very grounded in West Cork because it's the feet. And same with Southwest Kerry, same thing. That's why there's a lot of Gaeltacht areas there as well, right? But also Skellig Michael. I'm going to get into that in a later video properly, right? Um, so Westmeath is the heart, right? And that was always known as the fifth province, right? And I'll explain why. So it becomes the fifth province again when spiritual sovereignty awakens back up in Ireland, right? And this was the seat of the High Kings of Ireland and sovereignty, right? So Westmeath was like the where the inner worlds meet, and then Westmeath was directly connected to the four provinces of Ireland, and the four provinces of Ireland were connected to the four quadrants of your heart, right? The human heart. And yeah, so the four provinces was related to the human heart, and that's why it was the seat of the High King as well, right? And I'm going to get into this deeper again. So the Burren was always the gut and the solar plexus. Solar means sun, right? That's why you have Dunangus as well, off the Burren, and that's about the sun and about the solar plexus, all of that, the gut. In the Burren as well, you have different flora and fauna because that's like the gut bacteria, the microbiome, all of that, the healthy biome. And the Burren is all about resilience and endurance, right? There's even underground waterfalls in the Burren that many people don't know about. And you have a lot of really cool people protecting all of that, right? So Loch Derg is very important, right? Loch Derg is seen as like the womb of the goddess Eru, the womb of Eru, the womb of the land, right? And that's Inishkaltra is Holy Island. There's a reason why it's called Holy Island, right? This is all about unity, consciousness, vision, purification, all that kind of stuff, right? So there was a monastic settlement in Inishkaltra, Holy Island, right? And that was a place of pilgrimage for a very long time, right? A pilgrimage and learning. And that's where we get the understanding of the land of saints and scholars. That comes from the history of Loch Derg and Inishkaltra, Holy Island, all of that, right? My interest in Loch Derg goes back to the, the king of the Tuatha De Danann, the Munster king of the Tuatha De Danann in Ireland, which was the Bow Darragh, and that's what Derg, Darragh, and that's about sovereignty, protection of sacred knowledge, all of that kind of stuff, right? And if you want to really get into the Bow Darragh, look into the prophecies of the Bow Darragh. I'm going to get into that later, right? But the prophecies of the Bow Darragh, and you'll understand why I love all that, right? So Derry would be the crown, but not crown as in CROW, and crown as in CRANN, which is Irish word for three-header spiritually seen as a higher state of consciousness. And that's why Derry is known as Dira, the oak tree, right? Donegal would be the some people call it the third eye, whatever. It's all about like you very religious, spiritual people in Donegal, a beautiful area, all of the above. Connacht is the hands, and that's what the flag of Connacht is of one hand of man and one hand of nature, a bird. I'll get into that as well, like the different warrior, tribal protectors, and all of that kind of stuff. Um, Also, like let's say we look at, let's say Leitrim and Fermanagh would be the fourth, right? And it's very funny as well when you look at even just I found it funny as well. Let's say last year you had a thing called Misha Era and Drumshambo in Limerick in Leitrim, right? A festival, and they were trying to speak for them from the throat. That's why it was happening there. And you the other side trying to stop them. No, no, no. But then eventually what happened is they said, we're doing it. So then went to the hands, right? The hands of Mayo, right? We're doing it. And you can see this mythology unfold when you understand Irish history properly, right? Waterford would be like by hook or by crook, when you think of it, that's where colonization began. So that's where the beginning of raping and pillaging of the spirit of the land of Ireland happened, right? Pretty dark, I understand that. So an important part, one of the most important parts is the Limerick-Tipperary border, right? I spoke about, let's say, um, Inishkaltra and all of that, which is close enough to that area. I also spoke about let's say on the Limerick-Tipperary border, you have the Tomb of Eru, which is very utmost importance, incredible, and it was being kept sacred for a very long time, kept looked after, and all of that. But this part of the body, right? If you look at the body, it will go correlate to martial arts, right? And in all martial arts, one of the most important parts of the body is the dantian. The dantian is below your in here, right? And the dantian in all martial arts is kind of it's about getting energy from the outside in and energy from the inside out, and getting vitality. Um, Vitality, that's where energy is stored, they believe, aligns the body with spirit, but it's also a place in the body with access to ancestral wisdom and connection to the ancient world. So they know that as Dantian. But in Ireland, it was Tuatha De Danann. That's what we knew this part of the body as. I'm not saying that, like, so the tribe that Tuatha De Danann and the part of your body, I'm not saying the part of your body is the Tuatha De Danann, but that part of your body is what relates us to that and gave us a through martial arts and different things how you could access ancestral wisdom through an understanding of that part of the body, right? I'll get into that later through Irish martial arts, Slivaha, but accessing this knowledge and wisdom. And that's why that part of Ireland was always rich in Tuatha De Danann history and heritage and all of that. So we have the Tomb of Eru, but we also have other places that I don't really want to talk about at the moment. We'll get into that at a later stage. Um, but as you develop spiritual sovereignty, you just, it's like that the land speaks to you and it gives you access to different things as you do it right. And that'll be the cultivation process through Slivaha and old Irish martial art that I will be getting deep into, right? Right. Um, so we basically had 140 Tuhas in Ireland, and they were like the 140 different tribes, Tuhas, and they were like economic hubs. In a way, they were like independent states in Ireland, right? So they functioned as independent states, but through Brehon law and understanding, they were able to work together properly. And I'm going to go through this. So they operated in a way as private countries, right? So there was thousands in each Tuatha. Now there's 140 Tuathas, and then there was four chiefs. The chief of Ulster, Munster, Connacht, so that was four. So that brought it up to 144, right? And 144 was always seen as a spiritually important number. It was a number of spiritual harmony and balance and all of the above, right? So 144,000 is seen as a spiritual completion, cosmic and spiritual alignment, and all of that. So a lot of the systems in Ireland were based on all these harmonic codes of cosmic knowledge and wisdom and all of that kind of stuff, right? So like the 142 has functioned differently, but always worked together under the spiritual understanding that the land is sovereign. So that was the one thing they all had in common, that the land was sovereign, right? And they operated like organs and systems of the human body together for the whole thing to work properly. And that's Irish spiritual sovereignty. That's your heritage that I'm talking to you about. So Ireland had an advanced ancient society, right? Highly advanced spiritually, all of the above, right? They had to remove our history of Irish spiritual consciousness to prevent you from finding out, so we could be colonized and destroyed as people. But we are a highly intelligent people, like, and that's where Brehon law came from as well. As you start honoring nature and functioning properly, so as spiritual sovereignty grows in people, this is what's coming back anyway, right? So again, sovereignty is not just like a political thing; it's a spiritual thing that grows inside you. And as that grows in the people of Ireland, that's when we go back to proper sovereignty. That's when proper sovereignty grows, and that's where they've been hiding it from you all along. And again, as I said, if you look at Ireland, all the different parts of the, like, even understanding the spiritual landscape of Ireland just shows you how intelligent ancient Irish societies were and how they lived in harmony with nature, all of the above, right? But they had to try to destroy our history of sovereignty in order for other people to claim, let's say, to be sovereign and to enslave people, create slavery and all of that. Well, so this is the solution to it. And that's why a lot of the tribes of the world are now all looking at this properly, right? And again, all the different parts of the body, it gives you an understanding of the wisdom of ancient societies in Ireland. And that's what we are going back to, right? So I'm just explaining to you your heritage, your sovereignty, what it actually is, right? And the beauty of it, the beauty and power of it as it grows in everybody. Like, again, the different parts of the body, especially the dantian, which we correlated to the Tuatha Dé Danann. I'm not saying it is the Tuatha Dé Danann. I'm saying it's part of your body that's said to access this ancestral wisdom and all of that kind of stuff through martial arts, right? And this is a martial art called Slivaha, which means the way of life, and that's how it grows this in you. So again, I have to teach people before we get to this position too as well, and there's a lot more to come. But thank you very much. Have a lovely day, and it's lovely sharing this wisdom with you. Right? Thank you.